Mm. All right. Good morning. Little bit of a stretch to start the day. Yep, we're live. It is, what is today? It's the 27th. January has felt like it's been a long time, right?
Very long. I think some people have just been paid now,
Yo,
and it's
no,
been a long.
there's still like 3 days left of it.
Okay, well then I'm very fortunate. I have
4
petrol in my
days.
car.
There's still 4 days left of this bloody month. It just won't end.
Yeah.
It just won't bloody end. It actually only ends. The 1st of February is only on Saturday. So yeah, this is a long month. And for people who haven't been paid or for people who are waiting to be paid, it feels like forever, right?
Absolutely.
Jesus. Anyway, I hope your day's off to a good start. It is a Monday, but we've got lots of shit to get to today. Plenty to talk about, lots of fun. Hanan will be in later on. Got some sport with James. Got a guest popping in the last hour. Loads of things to talk about. How are you, ass?
All good. I said when I left the studio,
All
when I
good.
left when I left the office on Friday, I said to everyone, as I've done with you before, it's nearly Monday. They didn't believe me, but yeah,
Here it is.
It's here.
You love to ruin people's Friday by telling them it's nearly Monday.
So close to Monday.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, as I said earlier. And one of those things is, we will get to this probably with Dr. Hanan, but it's something you found for us, is that ADHD and ASD, which we'll get to in just a moment, are actually normal biological variations as a part of human evolution and are not disorders.
Yes.
I mean, this is how we were raised, you know? I hate that Gen X ruins all the fun of all the other generations who want to have disorders.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I remember not being able to concentrate. I used to get claps. I used to be told to shut up and listen and pay attention and focus and do what you're meant to do and stop being distracted so easily.
Yeah. I mean, you have to try quite hard to focus.
What?
You have to try quite hard to focus.
Where is it?
I mean, I've seen you sometimes.
No, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a serious problem.
But is it a problem though? That's
no, it's a problem if first of all, if I care about something and I'm interested in something, never a problem, right? If I'm bored by something, I'm impossible. Exactly. And I can't be put to good use. And I become disruptive and I ruin it for everyone else.
But there are major positives.
Sure.
So we'll get to those.
Okay. I'm keen to hear, because I also think a lot of parents are raising their kids and they can't wait to add disorders to their children's life. And I don't know where it comes from. It might be a thing of they're setting up excuses for them ahead of time. You know, maybe there are a lot of these helicopter parents who want to be involved in everything and they don't want their kid to get any blame for anything that they've done. So they set them up by saying, oh, well, you've got this disorder or that disease or whatever it might be. And that, you know, as long as you have those, you can't really fail. If people say you're failing, that's because they're mean.
Well, you know, when I get further into this, it's not a disorder and it shouldn't be labeled a disorder, yet it can still cause difficulties in certain areas of your life.
Well, guess what? So can stupidity. They don't call that a disorder.
Stupidity can cause a lot of difficulties.
If we just look around, there are so many dumb things that happen, like things that I saw these street lights that are on the highway, and they're like 2 or 3 of them they're down. I don't know if they put them down to have the light bulbs replaced or whatever, and they haven't got to it yet or whatever. I'm thinking, that's been down for like a week. Surely someone knows that if you don't put it back up soon, some person, because that's the kind of thing that happens in this country, is going to steal all the electronics, the wires, the cables.
Surprised they're still there.
The metal. I mean, they're going to take everything they can, right? I put, those things that you put on your tires, the cap that you put on where they put in the air, right? I put 4 of those on because my car didn't have them.
And because you've got 4 wheels.
A week ago, I looked this morning. I'm like, where the fuck are these caps? They've been stolen. Where the tits? They've been stolen. I'm like, you don't need the expropriation bill to know that expropriation happens every bloody day, right?
Yeah.
Ugh,
And do you buy more and just keep on feeding?
I don't know. I mean, like, now I'm not going to. I don't care what the car looks like. I'm going to be like, fine.
Yeah.
Because what's the point? I'm going to buy 4 more, and then in a week from then,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be stolen again. I'm thinking to myself, what kind of a fucking wretch goes around unscrewing those things? You know, it doesn't really bother me in the big scheme of things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those things that just makes you go, ugh.
Yeah. It's like the aerial of my car.
Right.
I've just given up on it now. And now I accept that there's certain radio stations, because it's an old school car,
Yeah.
that I won't
So's
be
radio,
able to
by the
listen
way.
to.
I mean, you don't need to be listening to radio anymore.
Well, the thing is, it's got a CD player in it, and that's it. So I don't have much.
No.
Yeah.
CD player. Wow.
Mm,
I heard from somebody over the weekend. They sell houses,
mm.
and they told me that they sold a house the other day with a bed. It's one of those beds that has speakers built into it.
Ooh.
Can you imagine? And a CD player.
Oh my gosh. Does it have cup holders?
In a bed. Yeah, it has cup holders.
Yeah, you see. You
It's
get
like,
those.
just sounds so bad.
Yeah. Speaking of beds,
Have you ever been in a water bed?
yes, I have. I haven't slept all night on one, but
No.
I've played around on one.
Yeah, I've never slept in a water bed. And I don't know whether I'd want to, because I think it would freak me out a little bit.
Mm.
Take me a long time to get used to that. And some people, that's the bed for them. It's like those ones with the headboard with like mirrors on it or whatever. Jesus.
Well, I've been sleeping in my grandmother's bed
Oh.
for years.
Oh.
So once I was in need of a queen size bed, and my brother said to me, from my grand's house, it wasn't literally their bed, but nobody uses this bed.
Right.
So I've had that for a long time, but it's obviously not great. When a friend of mine heard that I was still in
It's
that
very
bed,
old.
yes. I mean, she's been dead for 20 years.
And this is probably one of those beds that's going to give you backache or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Not helpful with the hips.
Uh-huh.
And when a friend of mine heard that I still had this bed, he said to me, "No, I have a very good bed. It's also old, but no one's ever slept in it. It's from my mom's house." So I've inherited this bed now. It was I saw the label. It was made in 2008. But boy, is it a good bed.
Well,
one of
compared to
those,
the old thing
like-
that you have probably had springs, the old one.
Yes, it did. This is like one of those plush, you know.
Yeah.
So I had it cleaned by professional cleaners, and it took 4 days to dry.
Wow.
Thank goodness I kept the other bed, but slept in that for the first time last night. So that was amazing.
And I tell you something, if you live and you sleep in a shit bed and you have shitty pillows,
It's going to ruin your life.
like you could spend 1,000 rand, 10,000 rand, 100,000 rand on shoes and clothes and everything else. You could buy a car for millions of rands, but if your bed is crap, your life is terrible.
Mm.
Like, you don't realize this. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad that you have a better bed than the old grand one.
It doesn't have speakers, but
Listen.
good enough.
Anyway, I see a bunch of comments here already. In our day, we were just called hyperactive instead of ADHD or we'll talk about the other one just now.
Mm.
When we were actually bored with what was going on and needed more stimulation. That's from Lee. That's quite right.
Mm.
The good morning team watching live from Postmasburg in the Northern
Mm.
Cape says Uachiseng. So welcome. That's very good. I don't know anyone in that part of the world. Gareth will never go through a meeting without his phone, or has that shifted? No. I can't. Meetings. Jesus.
Mm.
Although, I mean, I had a couple of good meetings last week where I was paying attention the whole way through. I think it's about how much I'm interested in what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like if I feel like I can't make a contribution and I'm just listening to other people,
Mm.
I'm definitely going on my phone.
Yeah, it's very difficult to concentrate when you're being told something that you already know.
Yeah.
That's what I find.
Right. So Lee says kids are resilient as hell. Just leave them be. And I think that's about right too. We try to make everything complicated instead of making it simple. Janet says we've learned to raise our daughter tough we're aware of her struggles. A society does need to do its part and be a little bit more patient. I'm just saying. Is that because she's got ADD or ADHD?
Could be.
Don't know. The Real Network, did you see Trump got that hunter from Jumanji to head up his Stargate AI project? I think you're talking about the guy from Oracle. What's his name? Damn it. Doesn't matter.
Is that a fantasy thing?
No, Oracle's a company. He's a billionaire. Anyway, I think that's who they're talking about. But man, has he been doing a lot in his first week of being president.
He's been busy.
He got inaugurated. They only had the inauguration on Monday last week, right?
I don't know what he's taking because he doesn't look tired. His posture's great. He's like looks like he's full of energy. Yeah,
totally. And has lots of ideas and has enacted a whole bunch of these ideas already. I mean, he's made more executive orders in the first week than anybody else. Apparently, borders are closed. Foreign aid has been cut off to everyone until they can figure out who really deserves it and who doesn't. The army has been deployed on the borders. He's basically gathering up illegal immigrants from all over the country.
He got rid of a whole lot of laws that Biden had put into place.
Plenty. So it's all happening. Whether you like the guy or not, you kind of have to admit, like, it's nice that someone's in charge. Because apparently he told the story, I saw this over the weekend too, told the story at some rally that when foreign leaders would call the White House in the last 4 years, then some staffer would pick up the phone. So, like, let's say you're Emmanuel Macron from France, and you need to speak to the president of the United States urgently. You've got some trade dilemma, or you've got an issue with, a war that you're about to enter into or whatever. They'd call up the White House. Some junior staff would answer, and they'd say, the president can't really talk to you now. We'll call you somewhere in the next month. And Trump tells the story that now he says, put them right through, and they can't believe it. They're like, really now? And then they go straight onto the phone with him, and then he can't get rid of them now because they've had so little love from the United States that once they're on the phone with the president, they just want to stay there.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Right, exactly. So can you imagine? Because they would phone, and Biden would be asleep or
just in a zone.
There was no one running the place. It was like very, very strange. There's like a ship, and the ship is sailing, but there's no captain at the tiller,
It's just a cruise liner going through the Antarctic.
Well, hopefully someone stops it before it hits the ice. But the ANC needs to check where they're stepping, says Bitcoin Boat. Trump will nail them just like he did Colombia. Well, that's a story that happened over the weekend too. Carl says a good bed is totally underrated. The bed in the holiday home is so bad that I wake up in absolute pain every day. When I get home to my good bed, it's like heaven. This is it, right? You may laugh at me. You may think, oh, Leigh-Ann and Gareth so old and boring. Like, I'll tell you now. I mean, Flex and James don't care about the bed. You could put either of them on a crate. Those beer crates? And they'd sleep through the night because they're young and they don't give a shit.
They sleep backwards.
Just
over
wait,
a bench.
guys. Just wait till you get a little bit crankier and creakier and older, and you wake up and you go, "Oh, that doesn't feel right." It's your fucking bed. And also, you take some girl home to your house, and you have a fun time, and then she wakes up with a sore back.
I don't think she's worried about that. If she's had a fun time,
and it won't be for sore back from the thing you think it is.
Oh.
All right, you need to see how bed adverts are the biggest selling ads. They all are advertising beds on all these podcasts and shows.
But how does that? Sure. I was thinking that the other day. So I've had 2 beds that should be obsolete.
What happened to them? What happened to your old beds?
No, what happened? How are these bed places making money when you hold on to a bed for decades?
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't, but people do.
No. I don't know.
And the old beds just get handed down and handed down.
But do they? Or, I mean, what?
100%. Like, I've given mine away now to somebody who needed it. She'll then, when it's even worse, give it away to someone else.
So you gave the grand bed?
The grand bed.
I think this is a big deal. Cyril gave us a few special kisses to some American high-ups. Did he? No, he didn't. In fact, I see even Elon and his mom tweeting a little bit about what's going on here from time to time. And I saw a story on Fox News over the weekend about South Africa's outrageously stupid Expropriation Act, which the president signed last week. We spoke a little bit about that on Friday morning with Russell and with Pete. And if you missed that, you need to go and check it out. Those two are on top of things. You know, this government, they like the guy who stole the caps off of the tires, right? They're incapable of being productive. They're parasites. The government, and I'm talking about all the parties, right? There's not one that's worse. Well, there are. Actually, the ANC is worse than the others. But these guys can't make anything, right? They can't do anything. They don't have any skills. So they have to steal more and more of your money. This is what they're doing. And now, because things aren't moving fast enough for them, they're like, well, we're going to have to take some other stuff. We're going to just have to steal other people's hubcaps and see if we can break into their cars at night. That's what they're doing effectively.
Yeah.
Fucking thieves. That's all they are. Fucking thieves. Common garden thieves. They're the guys who, while when you take your groceries out and you put them down, they fucking steal them before. You're like, but
where's my pineapple?
Where's my... And they're gone. They're down the street. And they make it a law, so it's not illegal, but it's still thieving. It's still stealing by any other name.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, Larry Ellison is the guy from Oracle that we were talking about earlier. Thank you very much, Mutande, who gave me that name in the comments section this morning. And then, Colombia. So what happened with that? Just to cover this briefly, it's not that exciting a story, but it does show you who's got the balls. So basically 2 plane loads of Colombians who were in America illegally departed from the US and we're going to land in Bogota or wherever in Colombia. And the president's like, no, you're not landing here. Well, a couple of minutes later, he gets a note from Trump saying, I'm going to impose tariffs. You're going to get tremendous tariffs. And then the Colombians are like, okay, we back down. He's like, you don't need a war with me. I don't want to have a war with you. And then before you know it, sorted.
I saw something where
they're like, come, bring those people. It's fine. We'll figure it out.
Where they were getting off the plane and they were all handcuffed together.
No, I think it's them.
Yeah.
No, it looks good. It's a good look.
Mm.
All those people. I mean, as if airline travel isn't bad enough. I thought that was just a passenger plane when I saw it. I was like, oh, another stupid thing they're going to make us do.
Yeah.
Because, flying is just horrible, right? I don't care how, who, when, what airline. Flying is just disgusting. It's bad. It's a big bus in the sky. It's not glamorous or
when
exciting.
You have to do it all the time, yes. But for a lot of people, it's
horrible.
Exciting.
It's horrible. And the little tiny seats, you could barely fit in them. The food is shit. They don't even give you food on most of them. It's just terrible. Like, air travel is revolting. And when I saw these people all handcuffed together, I'm like, oh, this is what they're going to start doing with us.
Surely not.
Well, I honestly think that the people who run the airlines, they try to come up with the worst plans to make airline travel even more unbearable.
Like that one that they showed at the beginning of last year, I think it was. It hasn't come to fruition. Where basically someone would be sitting in front of you and slightly above, so their ass would be here.
That's right. And so if they farted, it would be right in your face.
Straight in. It would be like a fart transplant.
So horrible. And I'm telling you, they're going to do that soon. So if you really hate flying like me, fly now so you don't have to fly in 10 years' time. Yeah. It's so bad. See if you can find a picture of that, like when they tried to make like double-decker seats in planes. They were suggesting it very seriously. We spoke about it on the show. It's terrible. Lee says, sleeping well is 80% of living a healthy life, mentally and physically. 80%, hey, Lee, have you worked it out? 80%. I do think it's a high number, but I don't know if it's 80.
That's a lot.
I mean, most of the stuff, you don't make many decisions, for example, while you're asleep.
Well, your brain goes through a wash cycle at night.
Yeah.
And it prepares for all the thoughts that are about to come in the next day, the new challenges.
Yes, but I would still say that you make a lot of decisions. Look at that. Oh, look at that. And they actually thought about that. And they were like, yeah, that'll be good. People will love it. You're like, no, we won't. We'll fucking hate it.
Yeah, those farts from the guy in the green shirt seeping right through.
The girl in the pink is going to be crying soon.
Yeah, she's smiling
Now,
now.
imagine you're at the top and you're on the window, and now you need to get to the
How do
loo
you?
or
Yeah,
whatever.
you've got to
Ugh.
basically imagine scooching in and out of there, right? To the end. The end. You'd have to basically be like kissing the person sitting there.
I love that. Somebody says you can't do an upper decker in a plane because the suction is Carl. It's a hectic suction. You know what an upper decker is, hey? Remember I told
no.
you? It's when
Is it a sexual thing?
no, it's a spiteful thing that you do if you want to like up. You guys know what this is, right? Okay, no, you do, let me help you. Let me make your day. The audience knows because these guys pay attention. But an upper decker is when you take a shit in the cistern part of the toilet.
Oh no.
Yes, so it's in the top, and then all the water will be brown for a long time.
Oh
and nobody,
no.
and the person who owns the so you do this if you're spiteful, like
So
let's say
yeah, say you've sold your house to mean people.
yes, you've sold your house and they've like really suckered you in the deal. And the whole family goes and does upper deckers in all the toilets of the house, right? And then every time they flush, it'll be like brown, and the toilet will always stink, and they won't know why until they lift that thing at the back, and then they see inside, and there's a big turd floating around.
Well, this is very real for me because we've sold the family home.
Yes.
And the people who bought from us pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to get in there early. The pressure they applied was enormous, and they had completely disregarded the fact that it was a family home for 22 years, and we were mourning the death of my father.
Mhm.
Eventually, they got their way. And when we came in the day after, they'd ripped up the carpets already from floors that we just had fixed for them. So I think an upper decker
would have been a very nice.
And then they've kept all the curtains, so a bit of salmon in the lining.
Yes, no,
in the
you could have given them a proper welcome home. You should go back there while you've still got keys, right?
No, we Ubered the keys to them because we didn't want to see their faces.
Really, they must be horrible people.
People's personalities change when something comes to an end.
Or when there's money. When there's money.
At the end of a relationship, let's say you've decided, okay, you are getting divorced, but there's that overlap of still living together.
Yeah.
You become so mean and gross to each other. At the end of a working relationship, when you've handed in your notice and you're going to resign.
Oh, nobody wants to talk to you.
No, or that person is stealing data and information and everything they can and leaving upper deckers in the loo. At the end of owning a house in that relationship, in the beginning, people are very sweet and kind. This couple were very lovely.
And they deteriorate over time, right?
Relationship gets worse and worse until you absolutely hate each other.
And then people are so utilitarian about everything. It's like it's purely a commercial thing.
Yes.
Because they don't want to have feelings, so they reduce it to like amounts and times and
dates,
numbers, and what are you going to do? Anyway, upper decker would have solved your problem. Okay, so a great friend of mine, there we go. Belly landed his aircraft recently. I think I'll be going by boat from now on. Well, you've got a friend who's got his own aircraft, and I don't know. I mean, it's nice to have a friend who's got their own plane, don't you think? You wouldn't fly with a friend?
No, not in a little plane, thanks.
I've got some friends who fly planes, so I wouldn't have a problem.
My brother flies. He did fly, but he's a pilot who gets airsick, so he can't be a pilot anymore.
That is so bad. That's like if they asked you you could have any superpower, and there would be a condition. So, like for example, you would be able to fly like Superman.
Yeah.
But only when you're in a plane. So you could like take someone up in a plane with you and impress them with like, watch me fly.
Wee!
But you could only do it in a plane. It would be like a stupid superpower, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Vyasan, so apparently over here, we've got a little bit of Bitcoin but talking to Vyasan about being on the show with us, and Leigh-Ann has an evil streak. Apparently. Is that true? You think you have an evil streak?
Oh, I definitely can. Definitely do. If you push me hard enough, I'll eventually come back biting.
Sure. Okay. Well, don't upset her. She'll sow salmon into the lining of her curtains and upper decker your bog. Put snakes in your post box.
Ooh. Do
Imagine
we
that.
have post boxes anymore?
People still have post
Oh,
boxes.
yeah, for the junk.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I supposedly have a post box at the nearby post office, but the nearby post office, again, back to the things being stolen off the tires,
Mm.
the nearby post office has become a place where like homeless people sleep at night and piss.
Yes.
I went there probably about 2 years ago for the last time, opened the post box. There was some post in it, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Mostly like traffic fines and
Mm.
bullshit that I didn't even want to collect. And I had to climb over this overgrown thing to get in there.
Mm.
And the whole
Not
place.
a person.
No,
a
no,
plant.
no. Like plants and things. You could tell though that at night, homeless people lie there and piss and do whatever
Stench,
else.
yeah.
It's disgusting. I'm like, well, what happened to the post office? It used to be something that worked.
Yeah.
You could really get things done through the post office. If I sent you something, you'd get it. Doesn't happen anymore. So now you have to go to couriers, who are very good, but they're damned expensive.
Yeah.
I did this cool thing the other day, and maybe we can discuss it. I'll show you some of the results. It might be interesting to some other people. You send in a couple of hair samples to this laboratory.
Like from the root.
Yeah, you have to pluck it out by the root.
Yeah.
But you like 2 or 3 hairs. So it's not gonna, it's not like you're sitting there depilating or whatever it's called. You have to send them in. They do a quick test. They tell you what your sensitivities to certain metals are, certain foods, non-food allergens, things that you are lacking in terms of your metabolism, hormonal things. It's fascinating. And you get this report back in a couple of days, and they break it all down for you.
Is it a local company?
Yeah, they're here in Bryanston or something. Because a friend of mine did it, and she used to have endless like problems with her digestion and shit. And digestion and shit.
And shit, both of them.
And I've got a stomach like a concrete mixer, so it's never really bothered me. But I thought, let me check anyway. Let me see what I'm, what I've got sensitivities
Absolutely.
to.
If you can find out stuff,
Absolutely. And you find out, like, okay, well, for example, aniseed that they make licorice from. I shouldn't really.
So you've got the results.
Yeah, I'll bring them. I'll show you next week. Let's talk about it. Yeah, it could
How
be
long
quite
did
fun.
it take?
Took a couple of days. That's what made me think of it. Yeah, I had to
Yes.
courier it to them. Then they got it probably in a week, and like a week and a half later, you've got it with the results. It's very interesting.
Wow. Okay. I'll do that.
And if you've got problems with reactions to things, there's something that's making you sinusy or whatever.
Waking up with hay fever.
Yeah, this can help you figure that out. Gareth is a hypochondriac, says Sweet Pea. I'm not. I just thought it would be interesting. I'm not changing my life because of it. If I were a hypochondriac, I'd be buying all the different supplements. I'd be going to the doctor. I'd be changing everything. I haven't done any of that. Screw you, Sweet Pea. Like, really? I'm a hypochondriac.
That's such a funny line. Screw you, Sweet Pea.
Yeah, I know. So, Sweet Pea, you bitch.
You can't really be angry at her.
Gareth, that sounds a lot like homeopathy. Be careful of these charlatans. I don't think it is. Okay, and I'll tell you why. When you buy the test, then they give you a bonus one as well that you give to someone else. So I let my sister do hers. And she had very, very different results to me. So it's not just your DNA and your genes. It's also the environment. It's also what you eat, kind of your own personal. I mean, she doesn't eat meat, for example.
Yes.
So she had a very different schedule of stuff. So normally I'd agree with you, Carl. But my friend, for example, since she stopped doing the things that came out on her test and she stopped eating some of that stuff, she's 100% better. I don't know. Maybe it works for some people, not for others. The hair is too smooth to have a serious face, Gareth. My hair is... I had a haircut on Thursday. I spoke about it on Friday's show, but I'm not loyal. I don't know about you. I'm not loyal to hairdressers.
Oh.
I go wherever...
Yeah, you don't really have to be if you're not coloring your hair, but if you're coloring your hair, it's pretty important to be
loyal.
Yeah.
Because I went
different stylists try different things, and you can see on your hair the bands where
I normally don't even remember. And then suddenly, like, it starts irritating me that it takes a long time to get ready in the morning.
Yes.
Like my hair is too long or whatever.
Yeah. I'm at that
And
stage now where I'm just pinning it up.
Well, I thought about maybe I should grow it a little and be sort of cool and European, you know. But I think I'm too old now. I think it's too late. I think it'll look ridiculous.
How long is growing it a little?
You know, when it's like you have to push it behind your ears, or
I can't see you.
know?
I can't see you.
You can't see that happening, right? Yeah, maybe I should just give up on that idea.
No, your hair looks good like it is. It always has.
No, it's too late to. I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, so we just stick with this, and I'll go to the Algerian barber. He charges me like, I don't know, 200 Rand or whatever. No, 120 Rand.
Jeez. Does he do
guys,
the
120 Rand at the Algerian barber?
Does he do the
Flex,
nose
what do you pay for a
waxing?
haircut? You haven't thought about it. James, when last did you go for a haircut? A month ago. How much did it cost you? 300. What, did you go to some salon where they massage you afterwards, or? No. 300 is outrageous. I mean, I know women are paying like thousands of rands.
Yeah,
right?
thousands.
How much did it cost you to get your hair done when you do?
I've got such a bad memory when it comes to numbers, but I'd say
1,000
to 3,000.
Oh,
to 2,000.
Holy
maybe
mother of
2,000.
God. James, do you mind not putting your ass in the camera? Really? Your ass right in the... That's
Well,
like those
unless
seats
he-
on the plane.
Unless he reversed in, I don't know how he would have.
He reversed in. Yeah. He actually reversed into shot. All right, and there he is with his a month ago haircut.
My month ago haircut.
What kind of fancy place is this? The 300 Rand.
There's genuinely nothing fancy about it. Actually, it's one of those random barber places with the colorful spinny wheel.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I go to
those.
those. They shouldn't. They're ripping you off. Go to a much nastier neighborhood, and they're much cheaper.
Do you know what convinces me they're ripping me off?
Go to a
is
shitty
that-
place. If you go to a really bad part of town, they cost nothing, and you don't have to have a fancy haircut.
So what, like the West Rand or something?
Yeah,
So where I should
the West Rand, the East Rand, the South,
This is
the South. You have to drive a bit, but it's worth it.
sure.
Anyway, I'd love to see your hair long, says Sharon. Well, maybe I'll wear a wig one day, and we'll see how that
No,
looks.
no.
You don't think it'll
I'm
work?
saying no. It would be like me asking you, do you think I'm too old to get pink streaks in my hair? You would die.
I saw an old woman the other day with pink streaks. Listen, I also think there's something
You
fun.
think people with
No, I
that
do. I
colored
think they're
hair
mad.
are mad?
Yeah, I think they're dangerous. I do. I mean, it's eccentric and wild, right? And I would rather be, as I get older, I'd rather become one of those. I'm already eccentric as hell, right?
Mm.
Might as well embrace it. Maybe I'll just shave a big line
Down the middle.
Down the middle of
That'll
my
make you look instantly unemployed. And
maybe
that
I'll
you,
knock out a tooth or two.
Yeah.
See how many people tolerate me still. Imagine you'd find very quickly who your real friends are.
yeah, that's for
They'd
sure.
be like, you look like shit, man. The real friends would say that. The others who kind of, they like you, but they think you're a bit unpredictable, they'd be like, you do you. And the people who truly didn't like you and now are terrified would just melt away. It's one way to trim your hair and the friends.
Would you ever do like midlife crisis vibes and
Like
go,
what?
like do something crazy like that with your
Like
hair or
what?
whatever?
No, you see, I was thinking just to grow it, but now I'm thinking you have to do something truly outrageous.
Yeah, buying a Ferrari isn't enough.
No, I don't have money to buy a Ferrari.
Then I don't have many options.
Hey, did you see that video of Somizi getting into a Lamborghini? A green Lamborghini. I'm like, Somizi doesn't have enough money for a Lamborghini.
He's got a G-Wagon, not a Lambo.
I really don't think he has enough money for that stuff. I think he's renting those things
Mm,
for social media.
uh,
In which case, like, why, dude? Who are you trying to impress? Like, who?
but there are a lot. Like I saw one of the local media that's online had one of their top stories was that some guy who I didn't recognize had got a new car. Then it was a GTI. Since when does that make
Newsworthy.
news?
Wow.
So weird.
Dopamine says, I shave my own pop with a Mach 4 blade. Okay, so you're obviously bald. Local 22-year-old barber, 100 Rand cash.
Mm.
My barber also only accepts cash for some reason, which makes me feel like the price and the fact that they do that is kind of shady.
No, it's great. I'll tell you what, if you can do cash business with people like your barber, winning for him anyway. No SARS involvement. That's why
he's
they do
living
it.
his best life. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, actually.
No, you don't want SARS all over your business. In fact, I would encourage everybody in this country. We already have a very good cash economy. It's not going to end anytime soon. But do as much of your business as you can in cash. Don't involve SARS. They have no right to take anything more than they're already taking, and it's too much.
Stick your cash under your mattress.
Yeah,
That's it.
mattress.
in
like,
the
Under
sofa.
that old bed.
Yes.
The old grand bed.
Oh, maybe I should check before I let it go.
And maybe like Cyril, you had a whole lot of money stashed in there.
Yeah, well, my grand did.
Maybe, hey, because those old people used to keep all their money in the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you. All right, so I know you're not here for your health, James. Let's get
No.
on to it. We've got some sport from the weekend, and I want us to start. I don't care whether you like it or not. Let's start with Accrington Stanley, who I've become a
So-
major fan of.
I got
Right?
you. I got you covered.
I didn't watch
played
the
this
game or
weekend.
anything, but I did see the score. They 1-0?
You'd be pleased to know they won 1-0.
Yeah,
You would,
See,
but
I
you'd
know that.
also be not so pleased to know that they're sitting
200.
20th in
okay.
the EFL League 2 at the moment.
So
which
that's
is-
that's like 2 leagues down.
yeah, that's
from
quite a way
I can't
down.
believe you're finally getting into it, and
No,
you've
not really.
chosen someone that's
Accrington
20 down.
The
Stanley.
Goat Club.
No, I just
the
like
greatest.
the name.
So yeah, they won. I'm actually adding that to the sports headlines for this morning. They won
Good.
this weekend 1-0 against Crew Alexander. There was
Crew
also
Alexander. That sounds like a barber.
actually, now that we're here, some of the names
Mm.
for some of these like
Shitty teams.
shitty teams are
Right.
so random.
Go on.
You've got Grimsby Town,
Mhm.
which is interesting. Bromley, MK Dons, Accrington Stanley, Swindon Town, and Gillingham were some of the weird teams that they play every single week. So that's happening in the EFL League 2. The Premier League also happened this weekend. Liverpool did what Liverpool do week on week at this stage. They beat Ipswich 4-1 to go top of the log. Spurs, they lost 2-1 to Leicester. City beat Chelsea 3-1. United beat Fulham last night 1-0, which is also quite a surprise
Yeah.
to most. Liverpool top of the table by
Oh, you couldn't wait to tell us that.
6 points, game
This
in
is-
hand.
This is who he's into. Liverpool.
You know, all of the
Where's the shirt?
you know.
Is your bed covered in Liverpool
You laugh.
regalia? Is it?
A while ago,
It was.
when I was much younger.
I
I had-
12.
An embarrassing age, I'd say,
It's 15.
probably. I had Liverpool bed sheets.
I knew
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no.
knew it. You
Yeah.
know how bad those are because they're red.
Oh.
Huh?
So
They're
red.
Yeah.
So red. Yeah, I didn't see the
See,
error
we're
of my
talking a lot
ways.
about beds this morning.
Yeah.
Have you got a shitty bed, James?
No, I bought a new one about a year or two ago.
Okay, good.
Quite expensive, but
Listen,
worth it.
they can be outrageously
Right?
expensive. Yeah.
Ridiculously.
You know, here's Mr. Cheap 100 Rand haircut telling you that a bed can be outrageous. They can. They can cost thousands of rands. Thousands.
The Nedbank Cup also happened this weekend. Easy wins for Pirates, Chiefs, and Sundowns. And then in the world of rugby, Glasgow Warriors, they played Connacht. They won 22-19.
Mhm.
Cardiff lost to the Sharks 42-22. Leinster beat the Stormers 36-12. The Lions lost to the Bulls 37-22.
Mhm.
The world of the SA20, which is all everyone's talking about at the moment on Twitter.
Mhm.
The top four have pretty much been confirmed this weekend. The Pile Royals were the first team to book a playoff spot, with MI Cape Town following them in the second after a big win on
So a lot of my
Saturday.
friends were at cricket this weekend. It seems like a fun thing
It does
for
seem
families
like a
to
vibe,
do.
hey?
Mm.
No, but you go with the kids and like everything else. My youngest nephew played his first cricket match, and he managed to. I think he performed very, very well. Got like a ton of runs, and while he was bowling, he caught the ball and threw it at the wickets and got the guy out.
Hmm.
So he ran him out basically.
His dad must be proud.
Oh yeah, but the younger one is not as competitive as the older one. The older one is just like his father. Like everything is about the stats, the numbers. He knows exactly how many runs he's on. He knows exactly what he has to do. If it doesn't go his way, he's like, "Oh, this is terrible." The younger one, not really even sure how many runs.
Vibes.
So everyone, cricket everywhere, right?
It does seem like a lot of fun to go to these things.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
Ben always raves about Centurion. He says you sit on the lawn,
Mm.
order a couple of drinks. Yeah.
Sit in the
fun way to
sun for
spend
way
the day.
too long,
Yeah.
come back looking
Get-
like a tomato.
You get very burnt.
When you say Centurion, do you mean Supersport
Supersport pack.
Hack?
Yeah.
Or pack.
It's the Titans' home ground.
But they're now called the
Momentum.
something else. Pretoria Capitals. There we go. Yes.
Tap.
Trust me.
Gareth pays attention, huh? That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. More than I do, because I didn't know that the Sunrise is Eastern Cape and the Joburg Super Kings.
Raven says Liverpool bed sheets are like natural birth control pills.
100%. That would
Oh,
no
no. Oh,
way
no, what have I
gone.
Wow, Lee says that the Crown Jewel mattress from Sealy is 19,500 rand for a mattress. But she says so worth it.
What's in it?
Yeah, I mean, what's in it?
The
Solid
crown
gold.
jewels.
Yeah,
The
gold.
crown
Gold and
jewels.
gemstones. Go on.
Sunrise is Eastern Cape and Joburg Super Kings round off the top 4, but both enjoying home wins over the weekend. And that is the sport.
Okay, very good.
Thanks for
Slippery
having me.
Pickle says, I sleep on a reed mat on the floor. Not good to sleep in. I don't want to get soft.
Sure.
Well, there we go. You know, reed mat on the floor. That's how most of our ancestors for hundreds and hundreds of years lived.
Yeah, I don't know how. I would
Well.
at least have to kind of carve something out for a bit of a pillow and something.
Reed mat on the floor. I'm not backing out this time. All right, yeah. We beep.
Just go
beep,
full frontal.
Beep, beep, beep. You know, like when a truck is like backing into an alley.
Yeah.
Great. Centurion is better because wonder is you're not allowed to drink on the grass. I wonder how much money Graham Smith has made from this cricket thing. Well, he deserves it. It's great. Clifford says Sloom is great. So my sister and her boyfriend have got Sloom.
What is it?
It's
A
a-
game?
No, it's this mattress that it comes all like wound up and you open it up and it
Oh, it
pops out.
expands. Yes.
it's like made of memory foam or whatever.
Yeah.
And they swear by it. So maybe that's the one to go for. A mattress weighs twice the amount after 10 years.
Ew.
Yeah, skin and mites.
Oh no! Now you see that's
That's-
grossing me out completely.
It's revolting.
The cleaners did say that it's completely sterile now.
Well, for now. When did you have it cleaned?
4 days ago.
Okay, so you'll be fine for another 4 days.
But they did, it's getting me. They did say it's heavy. It's really heavy.
Oh, really? So
And
it was full of...
They move beds often. Oh, Gareth, please. Make me cry.
All right, well, we got to get to Dr. Hanan. So why don't you first, while he's on the line, you can start telling us about this survey, because I think this is really interesting. And I'm sure Dr. Hanan has an interesting take on this too. So tell us the story.
So this is a fairly new paper from December last year
Okay.
in the NIH's Clinical Neuropsychiatry Journal of Treatment Evaluation.
Okay.
Written by Annie Swanepoel.
Oh, Swanepoel.
I know, I saw that. I was
Oh,
wondering.
Maybe she's South African.
Could be. And it starts like this. ADHD and ASD are normal biological variations as part of human evolution and are not disorders. So here's the abstract. I'll just read a bit of it. Recent developments driven by people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, and or autism spectrum disorder, ASD.
Hmm.
So you're looking at your ADHDs and your autisms,
Mhm.
have highlighted that far from being disorders, these can actually be seen as natural variations in neurodevelopment. So the neurodiversity movement acknowledges that people with ADHD and or ASD have specific strengths that can help them outperform neurotypical individuals in certain situations. Therefore, these should not be seen as disorders. Supported by evolutionary science, natural selection, this evolutionary perspective supports neurodiversity as relevant and important. And that's it.
So in other words, they're not disorders. They actually
No.
could be superpowers.
For instance, people with ADHD have above average skills in creative thinking,
Right.
visio-spatial reasoning and courage.
Right.
while people with ASD excel at memory, innovative thinking,
Yeah.
observation of details, and often have specialist skills.
Right. So didn't I say this 10 years ago?
They can then hardly be considered to have a disorder,
Yeah.
and neurodiversity can be closer to a superpower.
Thank you very much. I hate to say I told you so, and I'm not this professor of
Wonderful.
neurodiversity. I'm just some douchebag.
Some
who
layman
does a
on the
show.
street.
I know lots of people with ADHD, and almost all of them are successful. Right? Almost all.
So look, I have to take medication in order to concentrate in certain situations.
Yeah, but that's because your brain has been scrambled over hundreds of years by alcoholism and bad behavior.
Not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, all of that shit. No, you're a disaster. but I'm saying most people. But you also have you're on Ritalin sometimes.
I take not Ritalin. I take Atentra every single day.
Okay, every day, huh?
Yeah, it's one of those that you have
Wow.
to take every day.
Yeah, no, you really you got problems.
And I'm on the highest milligrams.
Oh my God. All right, so so let's get Dr. Hanan on, and let's ask him what he thinks of this survey, and whether or not this is like an "I told you so" by me and probably by him.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So, Doc, how are you this morning?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. Did you hear this study that Leigh-Ann just told us about? What do you think of that?
I didn't. Tell me.
Okay, so basically, this Professor Swanepoel at the NIH in America, she's a psychiatrist. She's been studying this stuff for a while. She says ADHD and even autism spectrum disorder, she says they're not disorders. It's just part of the evolution of human neurodiversity and the ability of humans to think differently and to be different. And we shouldn't consider these things disorders. She says they actually should be considered like superpowers. They're on that edge where, a lot of variation happens in the way people use their brains. And she says we must just get on with it.
Yeah, I'd like to see this study fully, but I like that idea a lot. I think in today's age, we overdiagnose people and we call these diagnoses disorders. And unfortunately, what that does is it disempowers an individual because a disorder is considered something that is within you that you need medication for. You're not empowered to actually use it to make your life better. But how about we relabel it as a superpower or your own human condition that allows you to do certain things better than others, and it weakens you another way, which, Leigh-Ann, if you have ADHD, for example, there's certain things that you can do better than others, and there's certain things that others can do better than you. But by the way, that is what we call the uniqueness of being human. And you utilize your strength in a particular way, and you learn how to mitigate the weaknesses in a particular way. And people mitigate their weaknesses in many ways. I mean, we drink coffee to give us energy.
Yeah.
We go to gym to,
right.
To increase our concentration and our physical ability. So I try to shy away from calling anything a disorder. Again, we are overdiagnosing, especially kids, as opposed to seeing it as this is a unique set of skill set, and you utilize the good and you mitigate the bad.
So what about, and I said this to Leigh-Ann earlier, what about that maybe these parents, just they first of all, every parent is always desperate for their kids to be better than, right? So if they do something well, the parents are thrilled. They don't want their kids to be ordinary, but they also don't want their kids to ever be blamed for anything. So you get these parents who go along with any diagnosis they can get that makes the kid in some way disordered, because then it kind of gives the kid a get out of jail free card for all the things that might happen in life. Oh, but shame, little Tommy's got ADHD instead of he just needs a fucking crack,
or just crack.
Well, or just crack. I mean, what do you think of that? Because there are these parents, they can't wait to give their kid a diagnosis. They're like, oh, little Johnny, don't worry about him. He's bouncing off the walls. He's running around. He's peeing against the neighbor's car wheels. And they're like, oh no, but he's just, don't worry. He's got this disorder. He's on medication.
Yeah, a lot of people use these titles and these disorders as a way to give excuse to their own behavior. And at schools, it's done the same way. I mean, teachers are incredible, but some teachers can't handle, the system cannot handle certain type of kids
Yeah.
that want to be creative, things that want to draw out of the line,
Yeah.
which is incredibly useful.
Right.
Because the greatest innovators are the people that draw out of the lines.
Right.
So what do we do with these kids? Because teachers can't handle them, the system can't handle them, the principals can't handle them. So what do we do? So we just give them a title or a label called, well, you obviously are a problem, in inverted commas, you've got ADHD. Don't worry, we'll medicate you and bring you back to drawing within the lines, which is such a shame. Because if we created a system for these individuals to be creative and to play within certain boundaries that serve their personality and their temperament a little bit better, that would serve everybody.
All right. Well, listen, I don't know the answer to any of this, and I'm sure that every parent is obviously they care about their kid, so they want their kid to be as normal and to have as good a life as possible. I'm saying embrace this stuff. And there's a very good comment here about like Elon, because Elon is probably the most famous neurodivergent person in the world. Bitcoin But says he channeled all his extra energy into going to Mars, not driving himself, traveling in a tunnel under the ground, making flamethrowers that are not flamethrowers. It doesn't end with him. You can channel that extra energy, that lack of focus, into many different things. But I think it takes a tremendous amount of discipline. And I think that's what's probably lacking with a lot of people is discipline. So let's go to an email here. We got this from somebody, or let me just see what this says here. Oh, yeah, stress and burnout. So somebody said, how can you recognize the early signs of burnout? Because I also hear this being bandied about like madness, Dr. Hanan. People are like, oh, I'm burnt out. But what is that? And how do you actually know if you're burnt out and you're not just lazy or tired?
Yeah. So the current definition of burnout is actually it's not working. You know, it's synonymous with anxiety. So elevated heart rate, you can't concentrate, your memory is down, you feel helpless, you feel down, you feel sad, you can't function the way that you normally would. But that is very subjective. And for that, in that definition, then many people can fit themselves into the category or into the title, into the diagnosis of burnout, which I think is incredibly unhelpful because, you know, the 5th of January, everybody's already burnt out. They've had 3 days back at work and they're already burnt out. The thing that you should be asking yourself, leave titles alone. Listen, we're talking about titles, we're talking about diagnoses.
Yeah.
And I said it disempowers people. But the benefit of, unfortunately, the benefit of giving somebody a diagnosis or even self-diagnosing is you actually relinquish all responsibility. It's not my fault because I've got ADHD. It's not my fault because I've got anxiety. It's not my fault because I've got a thing called depression. And it's not my fault because I've got burnout. So the thing that it gives people is this justification of why I'm not performing, why I'm not getting from point A to point B, why I'm not as good as I should be if I didn't have this thing that I'm not in control of, which I think is so disempowering. And burnout is no different. So instead of just giving yourself this title, ask yourself, am I able to get from my point A to my point B in the different aspects of my life? And if the answer is no, avoid giving yourself a diagnosis. If the answer is no, ask yourself, what am I doing wrong and what can I do better? What am I doing wrong and where can I improve? And leave the burnout for 2 seconds. But what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? Because that empowers you to look for a solution to get yourself from point A to point B.
I love that. That's very practical. And I think a lot of people could benefit from asking themselves those questions. I almost have the opposite problem, though. And I know this isn't my turn to like use Dr. Hanan as a sounding board. I often feel like I'm not working hard enough. I sometimes feel, and I think that there are a group of people, and I'm probably not alone in this, who always feel like no matter how much they're doing, they're not doing enough. That always feel like I could be pushing this more. And you almost feel guilty when you have a bit of time where you can, you can sleep properly. You're not exhausted every day when you get home. You feel like I could be doing a whole lot more, even though I'm fairly busy. But I almost like the idea of just breaking myself on the wheel, like trying to do as much as possible. And obviously that's not good for you either. So how do you know when you're in balance? How do you know when you're like, okay, I'm doing enough. I'm working hard. I'm bringing in the money. I'm doing the things that I want to do. I'm changing stuff that isn't working, but it's still not enough. And I feel maybe I'm lazy.
So, Gareth, I absolutely love that type of temperament, because people that feel that they're not doing enough and they want to do more and more, and I'm saying this cautiously, they're almost immune to depression, because the opposite of depression is doing and looking forward. The opposite of looking forward and moving forward is depression.
Yeah.
So the fact that you want to do more, the fact that you're looking at what's next, the fact that you're looking to resolve, the fact that you're looking to fix, the fact that you're looking to, get out of bed earlier, go to bed later because you want to do things that resonate with your spirit, that's incredible. I applaud you for it. But to your point, when is too much too much? Now, the way we judge it is not by your feelings, because how many times do we have to say on the show, feelings are pathological lies. What feels right could be wrong, and what feels wrong could be right. So we got to judge it on objective fact. And the objective fact will come from your goals. So ask yourself, am I attaining my goal? Because the one thing that A-type personalities, people that want to do more and more and more, the one mistake that they make is they don't set themselves specific goals, and they don't know what they want to achieve. And what ends up happening is they do too much, and when they don't do enough, they actually feel guilty.
Yeah.
So they're riddled with, I should be doing more. So I'll give you an analogy, and this could resonate with you, and this could resonate with some of the people that are listening. As a father, if I'm an A-type personality and I want to do more and more, the worst thing that I could do is set myself this very pixelated, low resolution goal of, I want to be the best father that I can. Because the moment I set myself that low resolution goal of, I want to be the best father that I can, I'm guaranteed to fail, and I'm guaranteed to burn out and feel incredibly guilty all the time. Because instead of eating, I should be a better father. Instead of working, I should be an available father. Instead of being with my friends, I should be an available father, because that goal is so airy-fairy, it's so out there, and it's not realistic, and it's not attainable. But the moment I define it, what that means for me in my circumstances to be a good father, which means I'm going to spend an hour with my kids before they go to bed. I'm going to read them a story. I'm going to phone them in the afternoon. I'm going to make sure the phone is off when I'm driving them to school so I can have a conversation with them, etc., etc. Now, once it's defined, the in-between is my permission to work and to eat and to be a good friend. And I don't feel guilty for doing it, because I fulfilled the particular goal called being a good father. So in your case, for example, instead of saying, not that you do, but I'm just saying, instead of saying, I want to do the best that I can, which is the perfect way to burn out, you want to define what that means for you. And the moment you attain it, then the rest could be allocated. The rest of the coins can be allocated to everything else, and you don't have to feel guilty for doing so.
All right. Well, that's handy. It's going to take...
It's like spot on for your personality type.
Yeah, and what you were talking about with the depression thing is true, because I don't actually know how that feels. But I do sometimes feel guilty because I always think I'm not doing enough, which is ridiculous too, because what the hell's guilt?
But if you define it...
But who's going to...
Exactly.
Like, what's guilt? What's guilt ever going to do for anyone, right?
For sure.
Nothing.
For sure.
So, all right.
For sure. But if you define what that means, then you give yourself permission to do other things as well.
Yeah, but enough about me. Here's someone with a real problem. So Kala says, and I think this is something we're going to tackle next week because we're out of time for now, but this is really, really difficult. Someone asked Kala for advice. Their kid attempted suicide because they were depressed. And this is a very serious subject. So for next week, and I know you'll come back with the answer immediately, but we can't do it now. Can you give us some advice on that front? Because again, you could try and be the best parent in the world. There's something going on at school. There's something going on in their relationship. There's something going on in their head. Kids do crazy things sometimes for very, very bizarre reasons. And I just wonder how parents feel when they find out that their kid tried to do this, and what advice you'd have for them about how to handle that. It's a very, very tricky situation, and it happens way more than people would like to know.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, I'd love some more details about it, but on a very high level, the people want to end their life because they don't see value to their current existence. So
Right.
they feel helpless and hopeless. So what we want to do, and what I would advise to any parent or professional, ask yourself, how can I build value for this person so that their existence and living in the world is more valuable than ending the suffering? So reduce the suffering and create hope by increasing the value. What can I do? Is it more friendship? Is it better health? Is it better relationships? Is it a better sense of purpose? Is it more financial stability? Is it more structure? Is it more routine? Ask yourself, what is this person lacking that takes away their value, and what can I instill that creates more value and hence hope?
Right. Okay. Well, we can look into that in more detail next week. But thank you for your time today. As always,
And nice guys.
thanks, Dr. Hanan, and we'll check in with you in a week's time. Very good. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always someone who's worse off than you. There's always someone, a much bigger problem than you have. And when you hear about those things, you kind of go, the hell am I moaning about?
Yeah.
Right? It's
All about
ridiculous.
perspective. Yeah.
So I'm not getting enough done and I feel like I'm not doing enough. Meanwhile, there's someone whose kid has just tried to kill themselves and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So there we go. Just one last thing on this. Dirk says, my hyperactive daughter at 8 was on the way to be diagnosed with ADHD, and we channeled all that energy into sport and robotics. She's just designing and building stuff.
Oh,
She's 13 now, and she's completely fine.
Oh, amazing.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Okay, very, very good. We will come back with a whole lot more in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty of fun stuff to show you. Leigh-Ann's got some pictures that she'd like to share from a roller day in Madagascar. No, I'm kidding. But
I was going to say.
we'll get on to a whole lot of other stuff. Plus, we have a guest popping by who I think you're going to want to hear all about too. A real communicator and somebody who's I've known actually for a very long time, probably since varsity, right? Something like that, somewhere there. Anyway, on the way, all of that and more. Don't go anywhere. Upper Decker.
I don't have any issues with people sleeping around. If you're wanting a strong relationship, it can't be started on the basis of we meet today, tomorrow we're sleeping together.
It used to be you'd go out somewhere social, you'd meet someone, you'd exchange numbers, and then you'd almost go on a series of dates before you even thought about sleeping together or taking things to the next step. This was in the age of models. That age is dead. Because now it's very fast. I can go on Tinder and I can find 2 things real quick because I'm cute. I can go out to the club and I can package 1 table there because they're drinking Savannah's. You check what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're within my budget, you know? PH can go, he can operate because it's a champagne table. Yeah, bo? It depends on the man.
Indy 500, where you at with that?
I've just, I've never understood it, but shout out to the milk.
Indy 500, 25th of May. Now, I'm bringing this up because this is actually, they say this is the single biggest sporting event, motorsport event of the year. Check out the size of that trophy, okay? That's the Borg Warner Trophy, I think it's called. Borg Warner Trophy. What do you think that trophy's value is?
Just break it down for me. I have no idea.
That trophy is valued at $3 million, okay? It stands...
It looks like that.
It looks like... So, if you win, your face goes on the trophy. Actually, they put your face on it.
Yeah,
This thing is so cool. The Borg Warner Trophy is so ginormous. This has been going since 1911, the Indy 500.
Right, we are back. Yes, we're back. It even said so on the screen just now. It's so much fun. We got a lot to talk about this morning, and I actually saw, I think I saw it on Instagram. I saw our guest now, Alexander Leibner, who I was at varsity with. I saw him like making a speech somewhere and talking about communication skills? Where were you doing this?
It was a speaker showcase, Gareth,
What is
at
that?
Vodacom Dome. So the I have an
By
agency
the way,
that.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Vielen Dank.
All right.
I've got an agency that looks after sort of my speaking work.
Okay.
And once a year, they do a speaker showcase in Johannesburg. They do one in Vegas and one in Singapore.
That was very good.
And this was the Johannesburg one. So they invite a whole bunch of corporates and event planners and people looking to get people to speak at their events. And then you do sort of almost like a demo or like a sample of some of the stuff you talk about.
Yeah, because I think that the stuff that you're talking about, certainly in that clip that I saw, is stuff that we've often spoken about and things that I see you doing in your, digital transformation, how the future is going to shape up, and communication stuff too. So Alex was at Varsity with me, but he's been described by the Sunday Times as a seasoned and terrific communicator. And he talks a lot about like the differences between now and what we might live in the future. I have been obsessed, and I know everybody's talking about it, and it's kind of lame to even bring it up, but like AI is fucking wild. I started telling my parents about it because I saw them over the weekend, and my dad was like, my mom's like, I'm not interested. I'm too old.
You see, you get to that age.
I'm too old for that,
you
right?
just don't need to learn anything more.
My dad is like, tell me more. And I think I've got him interested to the point where he sees how it can be used as a business tool, and it can do things for him that require otherwise a huge amount of energy and thought and time. And I don't think he wants to waste that time anymore. So he looks at it and he goes, yeah, okay. How much does this thing cost? I'm not ChatGPT Pro. So it's like 399 Rand a month or whatever. And he's like, I'm in. Which is interesting because people over 70 are mostly not interested in new stuff.
Yeah.
So what got you interested in this? Because I used to remember us just talking shit, and you taught me a bit of German. And in fact, we'll get to this just now, but we're gonna have some fun. Remember that Backpfeifengeschichte that I told you about last time? Well, Alex was listening to the show, and he sent me a list of other German words that we will learn later on.
Lovely.
That you can't.
Very descriptive.
Of course, German is. There are words in German that you cannot translate. Like Schadenfreude, right?
Yeah, Zeitgeist. Everyone uses Zeitgeist.
I used Zeitgeist the other day. Of course, people who don't speak German go Zeitgeist, but Zeitgeist, the time feeling. Do you know those people who just have an idea of, like, for example, what's happening in America now? Very different feeling to what it was 4 or 5 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And that Zeitgeist, if you don't know what that is, there's no other word. There's nothing in English. There's nothing in any other language. Got to use the German. So, okay, let's go back to this digital stuff and the future.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting. I think what makes the topic relevant to me is that I also enjoy history. And I think history is so critical in understanding where we're going, because often like a lot of people say, it doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. So you often look at something and go, oh, this seems very familiar.
Well,
why does it seem
people
familiar?
use this term through the lens of whatever. But if you don't have a lens of history, everything's sort of grainy and you can't pick up patterns and it doesn't make sense. And everything is just this big stumbling block everywhere. If you've got the lens of history, things are a lot clearer. You can go, okay, well, human behavior doesn't really change. Human nature doesn't really change. But the things that humans do, you can almost predict the pattern if you've got a historical lens to look through, because you could see what people have done before when new things come along. And there isn't anything new under the sun, actually. Someone somewhere has tried some of the things that you're about to try, and you can learn from them. So I agree with you. And it's also a subject that you and I love, is history. So explain what kind of stuff you're interested in now.
So if you look, I've been in media for 25 years. So I started around 2000 when I left school. I think we met just before that.
Yeah.
In your 702 days.
Oh.
And having been in that industry for so long, we've seen that industry evolve. I mean, remember the first Idols? There was no social media. No. Like, if you wanted to watch it, you'd either have to read the U magazine, or you had to,
tune in on the certain day at a certain time. I mean, you tell people
that's so true. I've forgotten about that.
You tell people under the age of 35 now that there was scheduled television.
Oh yeah.
And you had to wait a week for your favorite show to come back on, and they go, bullshit.
And indeed, you'd have to buy the U magazine so that you could find out all the behind the scenes stuff and the gossip stuff. There was no way of knowing.
Yeah. You couldn't speak to the people themselves. Now you can do that
Oh my
online.
gosh.
And then, fast forward even further, and then sort of end of the 2000s, we saw social media come in. And then I spent about a good 12 years working at a Pan-African business news media company. And we started seeing how things were evolving, how print was starting to fade, how our television was starting to take strain. You had this growth of social media. And I think it's through the lens of seeing your own industry almost go through an evolution or an extinction or whatever it is, that also brought about this business for you.
For sure.
Because and I think some people see the signs and see the flags and go, I'm going to get ahead and start embracing where things are going and maybe even defining where it's going. Because I think there's the future and then there's your future. Because a lot of people go, I'm just a victim to whatever's going to happen. Like whatever comes along, I'm just going to have to just take it, right?
How do we measure? This comes up all the time on Twitter because people hate talking about it. But like IQ is pattern seeking. What we were just talking about history is also looking for those patterns. And if people can't find the patterns, then everything in life is a big surprise. Everything in life is like unpredictable and bizarre.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you never learn a thing. You just constantly, whoa. Nothing
I know
makes
people
sense.
like that.
Yeah, of course. Very stupid people.
And eventually you either make a decision to kind of go that route, or as I say, you just become part of the the weave of history where things just sort of fall apart around you. So eventually then I exited end of 2019 and then decided to kind of embrace it. On the one hand, go into a digital media business myself and set that up. And on the other hand, also start getting involved in future think tanks around the world and tap into kind of what was happening. And then also ended up doing a lot of talks for companies. I mean, it was the worst it was the best and the worst possible of times because COVID had just happened, had just started the lockdown, and the last thing people wanted to hear about was the future because they were like this is more than
just trying to survive.
This is more than enough for us. Thank you very much. We don't need to hear about more killer ants or whatever else were coming along.
What was your ant film?
Oh my God, we had such a thing about ants last week. Marabunta, killer ants. So what do you think the media landscape of the future looks like? Because also media in many ways you could say that the kinds of stuff, and I mean there's still old people who refer to the TV news as the truth, right? And they don't know any better. And you could put Marabunta into the TV news and they'd believe it, right? Because that's the only source they've ever known and trusted. But media sort of, and journalists in particular, have done themselves an enormous disservice because they've lost such a lot of credibility. And for people who don't know that the internet exists, I feel sorry for them. I don't know who they are, but there are people like that. They will continue to believe whatever you throw at them. But the rest of us are super skeptical about everything.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you were talking about AI and obviously what role that plays in sort of manufacturing information. And then I suppose there's a whole other conversation about having a chat about the science of outrage and how that gets manufactured.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
increased or decreased.
Those are the algorithms that social media companies have used.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a pragmatic part to it, which I think is the entire discussion around the business model. I find that most major media companies have got outdated business models that are based on, when they first started 30 or 40 years ago, where having a few thousand people in a building sitting at desks was viable because they were making enough money on advertising. But the advertising revenue has now completely been depleted. It's been fractioned, it's fragmented, and it's not what it used to be. So you can't run an operation of that size based on an old business model. So the business model has to evolve. And that's why I'm always fascinated by things like the Real Network, what Alec Hogg is doing at Biz News, sort of these business models that say, if we had to do it again now, if we had to start it all over again now, how would we do it? How could you do it? Now with the internet, with being remote working, with using AI, with using all these things, you suddenly don't need to have 5,000 people sitting in a building somewhere.
Well, you can't afford it.
No,
it's
because you can't pay for it. Yeah.
And look at how companies like MultiChoice are suffering. I think they lost 400,000 subscribers in the last year.
It was a significant chunk.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, this used to be they could print money in the old days. And I think the same is true for the SABC. It's a challenge for publishing companies in particular.
Mm.
Well, we've just seen News 24 make the decision to remove 4 newspapers in print and go fully digital. So some might say, is the decision too late?
No.
Should it not have happened a long time ago?
All I was thinking is, what are people who have birds going to use at the bottom of the cage?
Exactly.
For the bird shit. I mean,
I literally
without
did think-
newspaper, that's the only thing I thought. I was like, I didn't care about the fact that these news sources, which were outdated, were going to be disappearing. I was like, what are people going to use when they have to clean up like dog turds?
Yeah, some traditionalists will still use newspaper and window lean to clean windows.
Right.
That and also, it made me think. Remember how we had to save the trees by not printing things? Have we saved the trees?
No, we've got more trees now than we had 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Reforestation is an actual thing.
But looking at the newspaper business, I think there's this interesting phenomenon now where you're seeing the increasing growth of hyper-localized news.
Yeah.
So newspapers that are focused on small areas or on a city or on a particular thematic, those are doing exceptionally well. Those are the ones where you're seeing this incredible growth.
Same thing happened in the magazine business.
Yes.
You've got a fly fishing magazine that is absolutely they're doing so well, and they only advertise and sell fly fishing stuff, and it's for a very small but very dedicated community, and they can charge a lot for the magazine. But your big general ones have all failed.
Because you can get that information anyway.
Yeah.
And it also depends on the advertisers. I mean, the game. I mean, you can sit here as well and have as many discussions around digital and how measurable it is and all those things. Yet if the agencies who are buying that advertising or the clients themselves are not into it, they'll still revert back to radio, television, print. And that at the end of the day determines if something grows or if, revenue comes or doesn't come. And that's also a bit of an evolution. Like, is that industry prepared to change that feeds these media platforms? Because they'd essentially be evolving themselves out of business. The media planner, the strategist, the whole lot.
Yeah, and some of those people, frankly, deserve to be out of business because I've been fighting with them
I'm
for
one
years.
of them, right?
Yeah, but I've been fighting with them for years. So Slippery Pickle says, I know someone who thinks that the cloud server is literally stored in the sky.
Oh, dear.
Shout out to Adrian Shaw.
That's kind of
Sorry,
admirable.
Adrian, that's embarrassing for you. But
so if it rains, is that when the cloud server
that's when all your data comes down. Yeah. Okay, so language. Let's get into these German words because I can tell the audience is keen on those. So, I mean, you grew up speaking German.
Yeah, I come
German
from a
family.
German family. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So when you hear these words, you understand them straight away. But let's go through a few of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got them. Let's go. Let's
pull up some here. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's time for you to learn some Germans this morning.
I sent you a couple of words. The one was, okay, now I'm gonna have to recalibrate.
Your pronunciation has to be good.
Sommerferien Ewigkeitsgefühl.
Oof.
It's like 9 syllables ish.
So that, do you want to give you
Go the actual literal translation?
So it's summer holiday, summer holiday,
it's a feeling,
for everlasting feeling.
Oh wow!
Wow, that would be that's like almost permanent happiness.
If you had to dumb it down, it would be it's a vibe.
Yeah.
So say it again now that we know.
Sommerferien Ewigkeitsgefühl. So Ewigkeit is forever, and Gefühl is obviously feeling, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then there's another one called Gaststätten neuer Eröffnungsuntergangsgewissheit.
It's like there was a bit of a Gesundheit in there.
What is that?
Looking for patterns.
Okay, direct translation.
So that is confidence that a newly opened restaurant is doomed to fail.
That's hilarious. I love
so
it.
Great. You see, everybody should know that because who hasn't seen that before?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you walk into a place.
You're going like, this place is not going to last.
Oh, shame.
So you need to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the other one is Kraftfahrzeug, Innenausstattung, neu Geruchsgenuss.
Oh my God. That's a disease caused by, I don't know.
By Kraftfahrzeug.
Tell me.
It's the new car smell.
Oh.
So
that's a long word to describe new car smell. In this case, I think English wins.
So if you ever buy a Mercedes-Benz or
right,
BMW,
look.
Oh, there we've got them up now.
Gestatten
No wonder you were
neuer
battling to read them.
Hoffnung, Untergangsgewissheit. Oh my
Confidence
God.
at a New
That's the restaurant one. Okay.
Newcastle
Wow.
Kraft, which is a car, right? Or not?
No, Fahrzeug.
Kraftfahrzeug, yeah, that's
Fahrzeug
motor
is
vehicle,
it,
yeah.
Okay.
Innenausstattung, Neuerung. You know, it's funny. I actually found these words
He
in
just gave up.
I found this.
He just gave up.
I found these words in a book at a doctor's room.
Oh
It's
wow.
like a collection of like really contrived German words.
How
I mean,
amazing.
there's
But they do a thing that also is meant to happen in Afrikaans, where they just take a whole lot of words and you can compound them as much as you want.
Yeah.
And in German, you actually can do that, and it's a word.
I don't know if you could do it in English. I don't know if anyone's really
No, I
trying
don't think
to.
it's
No.
possible. It doesn't make sense
You
in
you end up
English.
having hyphens and it ends up being broken up.
But I love Scheiße, yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, there we go.
Scheiße. And I like the way she's using the double S there.
Very,
Yeah.
that's quite advanced. That is
Very
quite
good, Lisa. Very nice.
I
so
still like the
You've got your first.
But
your
it's always a Schmied Frank. I think there must be a bit of.
Schmied-Frank, yeah, probably.
Schmied Frank.
So
There's my cat flap, which is called the
you
Groge
shouldn't call them that.
Katzenklapper.
Your what? Your what?
My cat flap. A flap for my cats.
Oh, the door thing. God, I was completely on another page.
And that's
Sorry.
written there, Groge Katzenklapper.
Groß, a big cat
Großer-
clap.
yeah.
Flap.
Flap.
Not clap. I love the way that you can kind of, even if you're not German, you can sort of read, like Leigh-Ann did, something into German. And when I was in Berlin last, I read everything, right? So I'll read menus and street signs and pamphlets and whatever the hell else there, even if I don't understand it. And before you know it, and I'm not particularly gifted in languages, but I pick it up really quickly. And by the end of like a 3 or 4 day trip, I'm basically speaking German.
Yeah.
Like my pronunciation's starting to come right because I say it over and over in my head and I read everything. And eventually you immerse yourself to the degree that you can.
Well, if you understand Afrikaans, I think you probably have a slightly easier way of
they say English, which comes from English, which is from the Anglo-Saxons. And the Angles came from Schleswig-Holstein, effectively. And the Saxons came from Sachsen in Germany, right? So technically,
It's more English than it is Afrikaans.
should be very Germanic and easy to understand, and vice versa with English and German. It isn't. And of course, there's the Dutch influence in Afrikaans, which makes it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are places in South Africa where there are huge German communities.
Yeah, I don't know if they're as big as they used to be. I know around 94, when there were a lot of German companies coming back to South Africa, you know, like Lufthansa and Siemens and all, they used to send big management teams here to obviously set up the companies. But as the countries evolved, they've handed over more and more of that responsibility over to local management teams. There's obviously been upskilling. There's been integrating people into these businesses. So now you'll find, like, you know, Volkswagen Gruppe and all these places have got more South Africans there. There might be 1 or 2 Germans.
We still had Deutsche Schule.
Yes, they're still there.
All over, right?
But they've also diversified. They're now an international school. So they've kind of embraced more non-German speaking people wanting to speak German. But I do believe that we have one of the biggest embassies outside of Germany here in Pretoria.
Yeah.
So South Africa seems to still be a very strategic part of Germans' sort of foreign affairs. I think maybe with Namibia, there's maybe a little bit of a tie in there. But yeah, there is still bits of it, but I don't think it's as big as it was once.
Where are the Leibners from in Germany originally?
It's an interesting one. I started following it, and initially there's some talk that it came from sort of more Eastern Europe. It moved through into. So my dad was born in a part of Germany which now belongs to Poland, which was Poland before.
Where? What?
It was called. Well, it's now a city called just outside of Breslau. It's now called Wrocław. So he was born.
I had that once. I saw gynae for it.
He was born as World War II broke out, sort of around about that time.
Not a great time to be born in that part of the world.
No, and then obviously when the Russians pushed back, he then became a refugee into West Germany.
Sure. He had been pushed around.
And then ended up on the other side of the Berlin Wall, what was going to become the Berlin Wall, East Germany.
Yeah.
And then had to flee overnight and escape.
Oh, what a story!
Yeah, he's got an incredible story. Actually, the whole family that then obviously had to live through that East German time.
You had relatives who were in East Berlin?
Yes, I actually had an aunt. And that's also an amazing story.
How is your aunt Angela Merkel?
No, not that one. But I had an aunt who had an interesting story because there was always this talk that there wasn't the East German government didn't have time to build walls, and like there was better things for them to do. And my aunt went for a dinner, which was then West Germany, one night, and it was running late. And the friend said, "Well, listen, why don't you sleep over and you can drive back tomorrow?" And I said, "No, we'd rather go back today and whatever." And they drove back, and that night the wall was built.
Oh my God!
And they were stuck on the other side. They were stuck in East Germany.
Oh, they could have. They could have.
Yeah, been in West Germany.
Totally different life, huh?
And then we used to visit them every year. We used to pass through the checkpoints, and I'd go. I was still in a pram.
Yeah.
But we'd go every year and we'd visit them, and then they'd obviously always search your stuff.
Yeah, of course.
German literature, Western literature, games.
There was probably there's files in some dank basement somewhere with you photographed as a child in the Gestapo reporting that you weren't an insurgent.
Well, we had an uncle who was spied upon by the Stasi.
Yeah.
And there's a file. We got the entire file released after they were made available. And it's I don't know if you ever know there was a movie called Das Leben der Anderen, The Life of Others.
Yes.
It was a German movie about this time where people were spied on.
Well, they say that fully 1/3 of the country were busy telling on the other 2/3 of the country almost all the time. I went to the most fascinating place when I last was in Berlin, and they took us on a tour of one of those camps that they put spies into, like West German spies or anyone who they thought was a counter-revolutionary back in the East German days. And I mean, the conditions were just appalling. They had like very low ceilings and kept people in these cells on purpose. It was a kind of psychological torture. And I just thought, well, this was happening not that long ago. It all only ended in 1989.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
And that's why I think you also still see such a divide between East and West Germany now, because you find that people from the East are still very different to people from the West of Germany. So, and I think that's also why you're maybe also seeing a lot of what's happening now in the politics and the elections, how people are voting and how people are making decisions.
Can you help me just in short, and maybe the people who are listening and watching as well? I don't understand German politics at all. It's extremely complicated. They've been in coalition governments pretty much since the war. I don't know which parties, everyone's telling me that this AfD is like they're extreme right-wingers, but when I look at what they're actually saying, I don't think they're that right-wing. Germans are obviously very prickly about right-wing for very justifiable historical reasons, right? But what do you make of what's going on there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Germany's also trying to understand its position in the world. The Germans are known to be very rigorous in their decision-making. But in that entire process, they're becoming very difficult in trying to work in a modern world.
Well, also, don't you think that it's partly because the EU has complicated things, and Germany is like the flag bearer for the EU?
Well, them in France, right?
And they're also paying for most of it.
Yes,
right.
And totally, yeah. And I mean, they're also having to live in a world now where most of these European countries are not used to this massive diversity. I mean, for us, it's normal. We know that we have different religions, different races, different cultures, and we kind of put that all together in a pot and call that South African. Where in these countries like Sweden or whatever, like you've got a typical Swedish-looking person or a typically looking Italian person.
Yeah.
Now, when you start mixing that up on top of having to now find your place in the world, being influenced by China. I mean, the German automotive industry is taking massive strain. They're taking massive strain in terms of digitalization. I mean, digitalization didn't happen. They're still trying to get fiber, never mind, I mean, I think in some cases they're still working off ADSL lines, like copper lines. I mean, it's crazy. Like for a country of this,
you would think
this magnitude,
they'd be so advanced.
Now the train network's taking strain because they haven't invested in that. So there were a whole bunch of train networks closed down. The train's not on time.
Oh my God! That
Can
must
you
be
imagine?
the German. Please, the Germans without Pünktlichkeit.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that must be terrible.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening, and also like a cousin of mine is a director for a regional supermarket group.
Yeah,
and they're taking massive strain as well in terms of people not enough people to employ. So they've got situations where they've literally got entire branches that they don't open for a week or two because there's no one to run it. Nobody wants to do the work. And if you do get someone to do the work, you have to pay them a fortune. And if they don't like the tone of your voice or kind of like how you're managing them, they just walk out. and they go to the supermarket across the road and get a job there for twice the price. And
unbelievable. I mean, this is the same problem in some ways that France and the UK are going through. It's like the people that don't want to work. They want more holidays, they want more pay, but they want to do less. And then they complain about immigrants who actually will come and do the work. And without the immigrants, no one would be doing anything, and everything would just start to lose its, ability to work, like the train networks and everything else. It needs maintenance, needs people actually making it happen. And, oh, no, I don't want to do that. That's a dirty job.
And it's a very old country. I mean, majority of the country is well into its 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
And that's why
young
I think
people don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, and obviously those people are now making decisions for the youth because obviously they're still a majority, so they're still making those decisions.
It's like living in your grandparents' house.
Yeah. And it just doesn't work. And I think that's where there's this big frustration. So I think a lot of the votes that are coming through for a lot of the more extreme parties that have more extreme views is almost a little bit of a protest vote. I think people are saying, well, if you're not going to listen to me, then I'm just going to, give it to you and you can deal with it. So it is a bit of a messy situation. I know they've got a new election now. I think it's this week or end of this month. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, it is a big. It's important for Europe.
It's opposite that we were talking about this, which I think is probably right. But do you do German stuff in your family, like around Christmas,
traditional holidays?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Do you still do German things? Like
totally.
Octoberfest and that kind of stuff.
Well, I've been to Octoberfest twice. Once as a baby, and then once when I was older.
Good that you went as a baby.
In Munich.
Yeah. You guys are kids, and you wear hats in Munich. Yeah, in München. And it's if you ever do anything like this, is something to do. It sounds ridiculous. You go, I've been to a beer fest, I don't know, somewhere in Pretoria or whatever. Like, what's the difference?
No, it's not the same.
This is on a different level. 11 million people.
Jesus.
It is the biggest, and it is an absolute vibe. Even if you don't drink beer, it's one of the places you will drink beer because the beer is very good.
Yeah,
it's only from Munich, Munich breweries.
Yeah.
If you ever see a series called Octoberfest, Blood and Beer, there was a series made about the history of the Oktoberfest. It's brilliantly produced. It's German. They did a translation into English about where it came from and how this guy came up with this concept. And there's obviously, murder and money and pillaging, and I mean it's
a story.
Quite a rough history, but it's an incredible story how this guy turned this thing into the biggest festival in the world. And it's an absolute vibe. I know somebody from Cape Town. He books a table every single year, and he goes every single year with a bunch of friends. And they have an absolute
And do they dress up and everything?
Totally. Gareth, if you don't dress up, you might as well not go.
So what, you have to do the lederhosen?
The lederhosen, the dirndl for the ladies.
Tiroler hood?
The Tiroler hood, yeah, whatever you can go. But I mean, listen, there's stores all over Munich. Some of them are obviously very expensive. Some of them are way more reasonable. And it's amazing how you've got this many people in one place, in these massive halls, drinking beer and eating pretzel and Weisswurst and whatever.
Nice.
And you don't really have many incidences. Like there's not,
No. People mostly behave.
Whatever, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's, I think people think Germans are terribly, terribly serious people, but they actually they party the tits off. All the Germans I've met in South Africa who are actually German are hilarious and lots of fun. But so what else do you do?
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So we celebrate Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. There's obviously so the part of Germany where my family is now based in Bavaria is very Catholic. So a lot of the Catholic holidays align with a lot of the German traditions. But also like the food, you go and track down certain German foods.
You not have any, I'm thinking about the Dutch, and I'm not comparing in any way, but I know the Europeans in general have like a weird folklore creature that they celebrate on a certain day of the year. Have you got anything like that?
Well, you've got
creature.
Like the Dutch have got this absolutely scary thing that they expose children to every year. And it's like,
is that not around Nicholas? Like I know in Germany it's Nikolaus. You've got Nicholas in December. Saint Nicholas, and then he comes with this character called the Krampus.
Yes, that's it. I was just wondering if you had something similar.
It's basically like a thing. It looks almost like a bison Taurus type thing. I mean, it's really, people dress up in these small town villages.
It's terrifying.
And they obviously, if you're a good kid, the Nikolaus comes, Saint Nicholas, and he brings you. Otherwise, the Krampus comes with his rod and he's got big cowbells. and they do it in Switzerland as well and in Austria as well.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, listen, as a kid, you're terrified. I mean, you're just like, let me just keep it together for the year, and I don't have to encounter the.
No, the only thing I can say for sure is a big problem in my childhood is that I was exposed very early to Struwwelpeter.
Struwwelpeter, yeah.
You know Struwwelpeter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Struwwelpeter is this kid.
Is that like Sir Peter?
No, he was a mess. He's like Scruffy Peter.
Okay.
And he had long fingernails, never cut his fingernails. He never washed his hair, so he had greasy, dirty hair. And one day his hair catches on fire and he tries to put it out, but he's got long nails, so he scratches his face off and he dies. And this is a children's story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the brothers
Perfectly
Grimm.
normal.
You know?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, perfectly normal. That's great. It's lovely.
Yeah.
That's the kind of shit you grow up with, and you wonder how you end up being normal.
Yeah,
Well,
Max and Moritz.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Then there was a very popular kids TV show called Pumuckl, which was a little like a little well, I wouldn't call him a Kampfzwerg, but he was like a little dwarf.
A Kampfzwerg, which we learned the other day, right? A very angry militant war dwarf.
Yeah, he would sort of disappear and reappear.
Kampfzwerg.
There it is.
There it is.
Combat
There it is,
dwarf.
Kampfzwerg.
Combat dwarf.
Kampfzwerg.
Person who always has aggression problems, like always.
All right. So
Yeah.
this, what was this show?
It was Pumuckl, so it was like a little disappearing. I don't know how to call him, like a little man who would like live in like a carpenter's house,
Yeah.
and he'd appear and disappear, and the carpenter and him built up this relationship, and he'd always cause trouble, and the carpenter would have to sort it out. It's very popular for many years on German television.
Wow.
And I was just thinking of another tradition that you're talking about. So when I went to my cousin's wedding in Bavaria, they have a very strange way of doing the wedding day. But you wake up at like 3 a.m.
Oh.
and they fill up balloons with welding helium.
Oh yes.
So they have these. They put these
Welding helium.
Yeah, so
No, well, it's helium.
Just
Yeah.
helium. Yeah.
but they get
Welders
from,
have
they
it.
get from they were the welder provided
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So they put up these poles, and then they put the balloons on them, and then you get like a really long rod with a rag that's lit.
Oh no,
And-
you're talking about hydrogen. Then.
Oh, sorry, hydrogen. Yeah.
You make a big explosion.
Yeah, and then you light these things at 3 a.m. in these small towns in like the Bavarian Alps,
Makes a huge big ball of fire.
and it goes boom.
Yeah.
And they do it like 3 or 4 times. And let me tell you, that whole town is awake. It sounds like
But
it's
then they go, another wedding.
yes.
Yeah.
And then you get the bride and groom out of the house, and then basically you've set up a bit of a breakfast in the barn with Weisswurst, Jägermeister, and beer
Oh.
at 3:30 in the
Oh
morning.
my God. So
And
that's how
how
you're
the day
starting your
starts.
day.
Well, Bettina Eva Krenbauer
Oh.
says Pumuckl was so cute and funny. She doesn't have that accent. I just gave it to her
Yeah.
anyway.
But it sounded good.
Yeah, I think I
It
like
sounded
that.
legit. Yeah.
All right, there's some other things I want us to talk about because we actually have quite a lot on the agenda this morning, and Leigh-Ann brought some stuff that she wants to show us as well. So apparently, this is the 10 worst countries to visit for food, and the reason I bring this up now is because I'm not really so sure that German cuisine is top drawer. You know,
I love it.
I don't know. I disagree.
these wursts,
Yeah, I
these
love
wursts,
it.
some of them are just Leberwurst. It's disgusting.
Leberwurst.
Oh, it's disgusting. It's liver sausage.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
no, I think you're thinking of a Blutwurst.
Blutwurst,
Which is-
also disgusting. Weisswurst, disgusting.
No, Weisswurst is great.
No,
come on.
come on.
No, come on, Gareth.
I had,
Well,
and
schnitzel?
obviously in places like Berlin, you get, now everything's curry because there's a
Currywurst,
huge
yeah.
immigrant population and they provide the better food. So Germans are now eating that stuff. So now you currywurst.
Well, you get the döner, you know, the
Yeah,
shawarma,
yeah.
which is
Shawarma.
and funny enough, the Turkish döner, which has become super popular in Germany, actually doesn't exist in that form in Turkey. So they
Oh,
actually
really? So
they
it's become
actually
German.
they Germanized it
Right.
for Germany, and it's fantastic. I mean, the döner is amazing. Schnitzel, I can't imagine you don't like
Mm.
Käsespätzle.
No.
Those little noodles with the Swiss
No.
cheese on top. Oh gosh,
Mm.
I'm
Gareth.
okay with German. German food is not one of my favorite things. It's not that I'm a foodie anyway. You shouldn't take my advice, but
It's not something I would eat. I could eat every day, whereas I could eat Italian every day, or I could
Yes.
eat
absolutely.
Spanish food every day, or Mexican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look,
Okay,
a lot
so-
of these traditional foods have also come from places where people used to work the farms every day, so they
Of
are so
course.
calorie and
You need such a hefty
rich.
meal after
Yeah.
that.
you need
yeah.
to,
No. So
Plow
I
the
mean,
fields.
all those wursts, it's just enough.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Go on. What's
Well,
the worst?
this is a travel journalist who's written this article recently. And we often see these, worst countries to visit for food. And she starts with Iceland.
Oh.
And there we've got
God.
a good plate of Icelandic
Yeah,
food.
and they love that stinky fish that they pickle and all that kind of thing.
Yes, they do. They're fermented shark, pickled herring, dried fish.
Mm.
The challenges are
And
obviously
surströmming.
yes,
Remember
exactly.
that?
That's in the tin. Limited fresh produce, obviously due to the climate, so you don't get many fruits and veggies. Very expensive as well. So
Fishy.
acquired tastes that you would find there are dishes like hakal, which is the fermented shark,
But-
and sfid, I think, sheep's head, can be a little bit
Well,
off-putting.
that's like amohodu.
We eat sheep's head, yeah. So not too different.
But still gross.
But apparently Reykjavik has a lot of like modern restaurants and
yeah, I'm sure.
international cuisine. The second one they mention is Mongolia. I'm sorry, but that just looks.
Well, that's
you can
like
put it in a
steak tartar, yeah.
So Mongolia, predominantly meat based.
Probably horse.
Yes, mutton, horse meat,
There you go.
dairy products. Again, harsh climate, so limited vegetables. I mean, there you've got a few spring onions and a leaf.
Yeah, and like a leaf that's probably
Yeah.
off a tree that's indigestible.
Vegetarians would not survive there.
Well, Mongolia is not. I mean, you have yourself to blame if you're going to Mongolia for a culinary tour. You really, I mean, you can't even spell Ulaanbaatar. Let's pretend that you're going to go there and try, horse for the first time, and it's going to be great.
Greenland's plate is not looking green
Okay,
either.
For now.
That's just biltong
Is it
and some
though?
leaves again, and it's on what is that? Like a punnet? What is that? What? No wonder Greenland. Really, I don't know why Trump wants it.
Probably going to open a Burger King or something there, maybe.
Well, maybe it's a good thing. Frankly, I'd rather go to a Burger King than whatever that is on that plate. What is that? Leigh-Ann?
It's probably whale or seal.
Oh.
Other game meats as well. They're into their game. And then a lot of preserved food, obviously being an Arctic country. Again, fruits and vegetables, not a big thing.
Mm.
You think about how lucky we are to walk down in our grocery store aisles and they're filled with colorful fruits and veggies.
Okay.
Don't take it for granted. Okay, the fourth one is Nauru, which is a tiny island
Nauru.
kind of in between Australia and
in the Pacific,
Indonesia.
South
In
Pacific.
the
yeah.
micro Indonesia. That I don't know, it looks like
Cauliflower.
cauliflower to me, which isn't,
That's all right.
offensive.
But how did it get there? Is this also one of those things that
It's in the middle of the sea.
they just brought
And-
cauliflower along and were like, this is it?
So apparently the challenge really there is not so much the type of food, but the health concerns. They've got a lot of imported processed foods, which has led to a lack of traditional healthy options. So yeah, people can
People are
get
fat.
quite ill. Yeah.
Fat. Too fat.
So apparently the local markets, it kind of reminds me a little bit of being in the Seychelles,
Mm.
where you're quite far away from everything. You've got limited stuff on that island. So we, for instance, used to get self-catering in the Seychelles,
Mhm.
and you go to the spa there, and
Yeah.
there are two types of spices, and that's it.
Right.
You have to go to the market for everything. Rows
Okay.
and rows of fish, rows and rows of fresh herbs and that sort of thing.
Well, there are a lot of Europeans who like that. The market,
Mm.
there's
Fresh,
little-
at least you know it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also they have people who specialize in certain things. You've got like the fruit
Potato
and veg
guy.
woman, and then you've got the guy who does only venison, and he's got like a little stall. And
Yeah.
all right, so far, look, Nauru not so bad. The others I'm not interested in. Go
Mm.
on.
Kazakhstan.
Oh God, can we see the picture for Kazakhstan? What is
That's Wobbleton.
no? Look at that at the back. It's like almost like a sort of, how the Spanish always have their
Chorizo.
no, but they always
Chorizo.
hang up
The
like a big
copa.
ham.
Oh, that jambon.
Yeah,
Jambon.
yes, jambon.
That-
They always have that hanging up, and this looks like it's been dried out. And
So very meat heavy,
mm,
featuring dishes like besh barmak,
which is what
boiled meat with sauce with noodles,
God,
and then kazi, which is horse meat sausage. So that's what you're looking at there.
Kazi, huh?
Kazi. Well, they're looking at it. That looks like they've stuffed a whole horse into an intestine because
Right.
it's not very minced up.
No. Okay,
Is it?
next. Ugh.
Gross. Okay,
Kazakhstan.
next one, Madagascar.
Wait, hang on. I must sing the song for
Oh.
Kazakhstan, greatest country in the
world.
world. All other country run by little girls. Right?
That's it.
I met some Kazakhstan journalists in December.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I was in Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
and they were sitting at the table next to me, and obviously I was meeting people around the table, and I was quite amazed because this group they were quite Korean looking.
Yeah.
I thought it was more sort of
Kazakhstan-
Eastern European, whatever, but it was actually very more Asian sort
Yeah.
of influenced rather
Kazakhstan's
than
bang in the middle.
Yeah.
Of, like
Mm.
middle and far east, and there's Kazakhstan. And it's also got that Siberian sort of influence
Yes.
from northern Russia.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
an amazing place.
very interesting. And
Lots of nuclear experiments conducted there too
Mm.
during the 70s
Amazing
by
place.
Russian government.
and they speak was a Kazakh and Russian. I think that's sort of
Yeah.
the main two languages. Yeah.
And did they impress you?
Yeah,
Were
you
they-
know, it was quite a limited conversation because I think they're English, not
so
main
good.
language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not the main language.
But yeah, actually they were very sweet and I mean I think they also hadn't sort of been much out of that sort of area. I mean they do a lot of stuff in the Middle East and travel
Yeah.
around, but they were quite amazed to meet somebody from Africa,
Mm.
let
Right.
alone somebody who looks more German than African.
Yeah.
You know, in whatever stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite.
I wouldn't mind going to.
captivating.
I wouldn't mind going to some of those other stans like Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and Turkmenistan, because there are places there that were on the old Silk Road
Yeah.
to the east during the sort of ancient right through to the medieval and beyond. There are places that are very, very ancient. Samarkand. I mean, these are like almost magical, mystical places from history which have largely been unchanged for hundreds, if not thousands of years. You've got like mosques that were built, 200 or 300 years after Muhammad, and they still look exactly the same. So there are things like that that are quite interesting.
Well, it's like that whole conversation around Syria when they had that horrible war and they were destroying all these ancient ruins.
I think
ancient
Syria's
ruins.
still there. Right?
I mean,
it's
it's
still
sad.
a disaster.
To see a lot of this historic stuff. Just
Oh, I hate that. Oh man, makes me
Yeah.
so upset because it belongs to all of humanity. And
Absolutely.
you got two factions of idiots complaining and arguing with each other in some country, and then stuff gets destroyed. Like I was so nervous when that Muslim Brotherhood thing was going on in Egypt. I was like, please stay away from the museums.
Mhm.
don't touch the pyramid.
Keep your shit outside. Like, don't go in there. Because
Yeah.
they were right on Tahrir Square, which is
Mhm.
right next to the Egyptian Museum. And I was, oh my God. Anyway, luckily, I think they managed to keep most of it safe. Let's get back to food because people want to know about revolting food. Just in case you're feeling hungry this morning, this is going to put you off so you could be nice and thin. Let's go.
So we've got Madagascar next. I
Oh.
think it's a little bit unfair.
Yeah,
Why?
because they've got some good stuff. Vanilla, right?
Yeah, and
look at
also
that.
if you think about,
That's like horse shit. And
I think they've really been unfair. This journalist has been unfair, and she's used a very bad photograph.
what is that?
Look, whatever
Spinach?
it is, those other two people sitting at the table have polished theirs off
Yeah.
No, haven't even put
observation.
their knife and fork together. They have no fucking manners.
because they're going to have more. That's why it's so good.
Oh, they're going back for more. All right. So what is that nonsense we're looking at?
Again, just
Kale.
like
It's terrible.
Kale and rice.
yeah, there's very limited resources there. So rice and anything.
Oh,
And they don't say what that is, but it looks
Grass.
like yeah.
it's like, when you mow your lawn,
Cinnamon.
the shit that you get out of a lawnmower when you mow your lawn, that's what that is on that plate.
Bit of onion and butter.
Food safety is a concern there. Food hygiene, water safety can be an issue.
Oh my God. Okay, rather don't.
So a lot of rice, just a lot of rice.
Okay, I don't
And they
like it.
say if you go to like Antananarivo and bigger cities that you're going to be fine. Next one,
hang on.
Yeah.
Carl says for you, Alex, German food is fucking horrible, he says. When I was there, I learned that there are endless ways to destroy potatoes.
Potato.
Destroy
But
potatoes.
you get great stuff in potatoes. You get the mashed potatoes, which everyone likes. Then you've got
You get just like plain
Bratkartoffeln.
boiled potato, baby boiled potatoes.
Yeah, you can, and especially if you go more towards the Swiss side, you get raclette, where you eat the raclette cheese. Raclette cheese.
Terrible.
What?
Terrible raclettes?
No.
Revolting. They use that stinking cheese.
No, amazing.
Revolting.
And then you get
Raclette.
Kartoffelpuffer.
Kartoffelpuffer?
Yeah.
Was ist das?
You know the rösti. This was called
like
rösti.
Rosti.
Like
Yeah,
rösti,
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Kartoffelpuffer in German. So there's some great Kartoffel
well.
stuff, yeah.
I do have an Austrian aunt who makes the most excellent Kartoffelsalat.
Kartoffelsalat.
Mm.
And what about the klöße? You know, the dumplings.
Mm,
You get the potato dumplings. Yeah.
Still, I'm not. You Germans are not winning. Carry on. What's next? I bet you Germany's next.
No, it's not. It's England.
Yes.
Oh,
Of course.
okay. Well, that's easy.
Yeah, I mean the
I
English
take
contribution to
offense.
cuisine is the potato chip, right?
I
And
don't
and we
know.
call them French fries, so we don't even give them credit for
Fish
that.
and chips.
So
is
it's just the reputation of it being like bland and heavy.
Yeah.
So your boiled vegetables, your meat pies,
Meat pies.
oh
God.
mushy peas.
Ugh.
They don't really have much flavor complexity.
Mushy peas has to be the saddest
I
thing.
love mushy peas.
You like it?
I love cottage pie. I
Oh,
love
you're such a
shepherd's
peasant.
pie. I love bangers and mash.
You're such a
Fish and
peasant.
chips.
Toast and porridge in the morning.
Promise you.
Porridge.
Fish and chips.
Scrambled
Sunday
eggs.
roasts. Yorkshire puddings.
Hang on, play that woman for us. She, one of our listeners sent this in about one of our guests the other day, and this is the kind of person who eats that stuff.
Oh, Lordy.
Congratulations on ruining somebody's life because you couldn't keep your legs shut, you dirty fucking whore. Congratulations
Okay, all
on
right,
ruining
all right,
somebody's
we
life.
All right, that's a listener of ours.
Yeah, all right. You see,
She was. I think it was Nina Hasty. I don't know who she was talking about there, but very angry, eh? Phew.
yeah, I'm definitely my
I
kind
think
of
that's
favorite
isn't
food.
that the same woman who said something about me once that you played, James? Yeah, she said something to me like, why don't you crawl back up your mother's minge where you fucking came from? Or something. I was like, oh, that's unnecessary.
Hostile.
She's very angry. That's hostile. You'd almost think she was German. All right. So,
But yet the full English breakfast still kind of makes its way around the world.
Okay, now
Yeah,
that-
exactly.
That is
Except for the
probably-
blood sausage.
I could do without any English food because there isn't such a thing, if you ask me. And all these things that Leigh-Ann's described, mushy peas and cottage pie, and I can do without. But an English breakfast, you've got to give some credit to.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with it.
Bacon and eggs. That's I like that. That's
Mm.
very good.
Okay, number 8 on the list is Norway.
Oh, I know what's coming.
Yeah, there are a lot of pickled fish, heavy reliance on potatoes there as well. Seems like potatoes will go anywhere, really. What to try? Fresh salmon, reindeer stew, brunost, which is brown cheese. That's apparently worth sampling. And there's some pickled fish there. Pickled fish isn't the end of the world.
It's
There's
not
some
great,
good,
Leigh-Ann.
like, if you
It's
think
really
about
not.
Cape pickled fish.
No,
No.
I'm okay with.
There's also pickled fish in German, like they get these Heringbrötchen. You know, we get like pickled herring.
In a
I think it was named
dal or
after
something.
what's his name again? It'll come to me. In Hamburg, you get sort of pickled herring sandwiches.
Oh, no.
And it's just not for me at
Oh,
all.
that's
do that.
That I agree with you is
No, it's very bad.
one step too far.
Konrad Adenauer? Who did they name it after?
Further back.
They named it after Konrad Adenauer.
No,
Who? Friedrich der Große?
no, Größe.
Who?
It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Okay.
I'll think of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get there. All right.
Number
Right, so-
9 on the list is Scotland.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
also.
Okay,
Haggis.
we
Look at
know
that.
haggis, which
Ugh.
is sheep offal,
Who
and
knows
then
what
black
that
pudding,
is?
the blood sausage. That can be polarizing.
Blood sausage, revolting.
Does the whiskey make up for it?
You
then? Is
see,
it-
what to try? Scotch
You have to- you
whiskey,
have to-
number
you
1
have-
on the list.
Yeah, you have to pour the whiskey in straight after.
You
eating
need-
something
you need
to
a lot of
disguise
whiskey
the
to eat
taste.
that.
Yeah.
Shortbread,
Oh,
smoked
I don't
salmon.
know what I've eaten here, but if I put enough whiskey down my throat, I'll be able to swallow again. Telling you.
Yeah, they've had to adapt. And the last one on the list with probably the most revolting bowl of food I've ever seen
Oh,
is
Yeah.
Finland. Why it's considered challenging? Because they often emphasize simplicity over bold flavors. So
mm.
they'll have their staples like rye bread, boiled potatoes, and blood sausage.
Ugh.
That
What
looks
is
like
this European thing with blood sausage?
that looks like
Thank God I live
bad
in Africa, you know.
bad meat in milk, which is
Jesus, it's bad.
they say to try is the
I didn't even hold on. If you're not looking at this picture,
No,
if you're
can't.
listening instead of watching us on YouTube, this stuff is floating in milk.
Looks like it came from behind a toilet or in a bucket.
Yeah, not very appealing. I can see.
But
But
upper decker.
That's an upper decker, that.
do you think that a lot of these lists correlate directly with the amount of tourism they get?
I think so.
'Cause if you look at-
Finland,
Look at the most exciting, or the biggest tourist countries, right? Paris, France,
yeah.
Italy,
Yeah.
all linked to great
Good food.
right? Yeah.
I know people who travel just to eat. There are people who will go. We spoke about it just the other day when I was in Cape Town about how there's this restaurant in Cape Town that's been voted the best restaurant in the world. And people who are into food will plan their entire holiday around going to that restaurant.
100%.
Right?
Look, some of these restaurants, you have years-long waiting lists. I used to work for a chef, and he would plan these tours. He'd have some of his tours planned 10 to 15 years in advance because of the bookings of these places.
All right. And then I do want us to get to this before, because Leigh-Ann, you bring so much value to the show that if we don't put you to work, it always feels to me like we're not getting the best out of you. Why is it important for redheads to tell their anesthesiologist if they're natural redheads or not?
Have you ever heard of something like this?
Never. This is totally news to you as well.
No, news to me.
Okay, but I don't know that many redheads. I choose not to.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't want. Who wants to know too many gingers? And I know I'm going to get like comments from.
Well,
do you want to know a lot of gingers?
Well, if you're an anesthetist, you might.
Is your whole family ginger? Oh my God. All right. Well, this is important information for you.
I also have a lot of family members.
I thought the info was
Irish.
Ginger people don't have souls, so therefore.
No,
is it something to do
it's
with
not
that?
that.
No,
definitely not.
All right.
So I've actually seen something about this before. Something about people going to the dentist.
Yes.
And you have to warn your dentist
if you're a redhead.
If you're a redhead.
And maybe you've colored your hair because you're embarrassed to be a redhead.
Yeah, or maybe you've colored your hair red because you love red hair, which I've done before. But apparently it's quite important. So this dentist and lifestyle content creator, he's released this whole video, and this is why it's all come up for everyone.
Dentist and lifestyle content creator.
Yeah.
Sounds like
what a combination.
Sounds like not the person you want to go
it's
to.
It's like down the road from me, there's holistic dentistry, and I laughed at it, but it's actually so true. So there's so many things. Like if your bite is wrong, it can cause sleep apnea and heart conditions. It is holistic dentistry.
Okay. But
anyway.
Tell us why redheads need to be careful.
Okay. I'm just scrolling to the good bits.
No, because apparently, I mean, Raven says quite rightly, they are becoming extinct. Remember, we've had this discussion.
So people with red hair require 19% more general anesthesia compared to people with other colors.
No.
Yeah. So apparently you've really got to knock the person
knock
out.
them the hell out because they just keep coming.
Do they say what the science is behind that? Is it like sort of a...
Yes, they do. They've got, it's all like genetics, and also leading back to this. And I said this once to a person with red hair and they were highly offended, but it's the truth. And it's just because we as society attach a certain word to this. But apparently redheads are
more Neanderthal.
They're Neanderthal. They come from the Neanderthal.
They're more Neanderthal.
Yes.
Which is not necessarily...
It's not a bad thing. It's just that we developed this, you Neanderthal thing.
Yeah.
So they've actually got a bit of a different makeup.
Yeah. They're aliens.
So there were years where people were literally going into operations with like 19% too little in it.
And probably thinking, I don't know why, but that still hurts.
I mean, it's hard enough to be a redhead, but now you also have to go and they don't knock you out totally, and then you're being operated on and you can feel everything. I mean, how awful. Really, it is such a curse. What a curse.
Also, people waking up too soon towards the end of the, surgery.
You're busy being sewn up.
Yeah. They're still busy pulling the pipes out.
That's got to be the worst. All right,
and
so
more pain relief as well they need. So if you come out of an operation,
maybe
you'll
they're
need
superhumans.
More.
Maybe they're not soulless demons.
You see?
Maybe I have a policy. If the redhead comes too close, I have to get holy water. And if they come to your house, you must burn them.
No, it's only for that.
Is that not right?
That dwarf who has aggression problems.
Oh, the Kampfzwerg.
Kampfzwerg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they mentioned that in the article, though.
No, but I'm sure they also need quite a lot of anesthesia.
Yeah.
Kampfzwergs. All right. So tell us what you're up to now, and let people know where they can follow you and all the rest of it.
Well,
you're a media guy. This is what you've got to plug.
That's it, man. This is the punch. Yeah,
self-PR.
So I own and run the Santon Times now, which is sort of a digital media platform. People can check it out at Santon Times. There's also a weekly podcast, which also became a radio show. And there's the website, the social media accounts. If you follow that, you'll probably
Sanson Times.
Sanson Times, yeah.
We can find more of your
You were
stuff
mentioning like community news platforms.
Yeah, you actually sent me a video of your dad when you had that the cycling accident.
Oh right.
Yeah, we had a chat about that, and we put it up on the website. Try and find.
It was a hit and run. Yeah,
I remember that.
Those people. I don't think we had much luck, but
that incident resulted in him bruising his heart. And he had heart problems ever since then, and he passed away 3 months ago.
Yeah, I remember following that. Yeah,
with heart issues after a big, almost like a transplant.
Yeah. So
okay.
Well, at least you two knew each other, even if it was a miserable thing like that.
How did you meet? Well,
love introducing people to each other. It's my favorite thing. Yeah. You want to talk about that some more after the show? All right, but very nice to have you here, Alex, and always good to see you. Thank you for teaching us some really, really long German words. I'm sure this will make our lives much more useful, and we will be able to describe things in new and complicated ways. All right. So thank you. And thank you, Leigh-Ann. And thank you for joining us this morning. We will be back on Wednesday, 6 a.m. bright and early. Have an awesome start to your week and the last week of January.
Manus, hou je vinger uit mijn anus. Doe niet zo abnormaal. Doe niet zo animaal. Manus, hou je vinger uit mijn anus. Doe weg die poot, of je krijgt een stoot.
Oh Nel, ik ben biseksueel. Maar ja, ik kan daar niks aan doen. Je hebt zo'n mooie kont, zo mollig en zo rond. Oh wat een gat, wat een gevoel is dat.